Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time it is, wherever you are. My name is Aneesh de Vos, and before I introduce our very funny guest, and obviously my energy is quite high, before we begin, we must point out that we have David Buckler with us today. And we're giggling because Nora the cat was here. And I said, even Nora the cat is enamoured by your dulcet tones. At which point, as only a cat can, said Nora the cat got up and walked off the bed and off the screen. So maybe Nora doesn't have this passion for David that some people I know do. So, David, how are you before we introduce this amazing funny guest?
I'm very well, thank you. Hello, everyone. And Nora Cat is probably my most honest critic. So thank you and good morning. Hope you're all well.
Why, thank you, David.
Thank you, fine.
So we have a lady called Lyn Osbaldeston. Did I pronounce that right?
No, it's Osbaldeston.
Great start.
It's fine.
It's really like that. Sorry, I've got to get new teeth. No, Caroline is not coming on with her teeth. That's another guest that's come on with her teeth before Lyn. So let's get us back. Okay, Lyn is the Cumbrian Wordsmith with her amazing poetry. She is also an author and goes under the pen name of AHM Beatty. She has the most amazing story to tell. And one of the things, I met Lyn on a training, she was training for an ACEs course, gosh, a long time ago now, 2.5 years ago. And she's got this really infectious laugh, but she's also got this amazing authenticity of her journey. And her books, which I'm going to let her tell you about, are about her life. So, Lyn, over to you. Tell us about your books and how you came to write them.
I will. I came to write my books as a way for me to heal from childhood trauma, really. That was one reason, but the other reason was because I needed to know who I was. And that might sound very strange, but I was a child adopted back in the 1960s. And back in the day, you didn't get any information. You got very little. In fact, you got nothing. All I knew was that I was adopted. That's all I knew. And when my adoptive mum died, who was my mum, she raised me, she was my mum. When she died, I had this overwhelming feeling of not belonging anywhere. I had no point of reference. I had absolutely nothing to go on. And I wanted to know where I'd come from and who I was originally. Who was the real me? Because for me as an adopted child, I felt that I'd lived a life that wasn't authentic. Because I was given another name. I was given people who I didn't know to bring me up. I had no point of reference with things like hair colour, eye colour, looking like somebody. And you just felt like, well, I did. I felt like a bit of a square peg in a very tight round hole, to be honest with you. Nothing fitted, nothing. It did to a sense, but there was always that sort of, how can I say? There was always that sort of belonging, but not.
Right.
It was very peculiar. And when that life stopped, and stopped dead with the death of my mum, I was left with this great big chasm. I had this massive empty space and I needed to fill it. And I took very ill as well. I took very ill because I didn't have to conform to not saying I was adopted. I didn't have to conform to always having to hide and be a secret anymore. Wow. Because that's what adoption brought me. And I didn't want it. I wanted to be me. and I crashed and burned absolutely spectacularly. I just stopped the lot. I was on the floor, and when you're there, there's only one way. Well, there's two. You stay where you are, or you get up. So I decided I'd get up. And I sought out people who could support me, who in the main understood me and understood that I was struggling and I was in a mess, and I was scared. I was very alone, even though I had people around me. And I also, what scared me actually was the opportunity to actually tell the truth.
Wow.
Because when you're adopted, you live a lie. You're not you. You're going through the motions of being somebody who is put into a completely different family, put into a situation that's actually not yours. It's theirs. They chose you, they got you, they raised you. And you became what they expected you to be, because that was their expectation. And I wanted to have my own expectations, and I wanted to explore me, and I wanted to become what me, whatever me is, whatever it's turned out to be, whatever it's growing into. And I'm doing that now. And it's great. Life's an adventure. And I don't have to hide anymore. And I think that's the biggest thing. I can tell people what I want them to know about me, not about what other people said or said I couldn't say, could say or couldn't say. And it had a profound effect on me for a lot of years, over half a century. So all that came out a couple of years after my mum died. And I was actually triggered. It was triggered by an event that had happened through my childhood by somebody who was very similar in looks, build, the way they spoke, what they did, and my world just went bang. It exploded. But you know, it's the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because it really was. It was the best thing that could have happened. I've met some fantastic people along the way. I found my tribe, as I say. I'm still gaining people in my life. People come into my life now for reasons that at first may not be obvious, but they're there for a reason. And that's either for me to learn from them or them to learn from me. And for me to choose what I do with that meeting or friendship or partnership or whatever it is. But there's always something there that I can get from it, and there's always usually something positive. And if it's negative, then I know that it's triggered me and there's something else happening. And I've still got work to do on me, because I'm a massive work in progress, as is everybody in the world.
Yeah.
You don't stand still. And I do feel that being adopted, that's what I had ended up doing. I'd ended up becoming pigeonholed. And it was too much. Once the source stopped, once the source was switched off, so to speak, it was a bit like a tap. You turn the tap off, it stops dripping, you're free, aren't you? You know, that puddle of water, whatever it was that was formed, eventually shrinks away and dries, but you've got to fill it with something else. You know, something else goes in that gap. So what went in that gap was me. Little old me.
I'm so glad that you came to talk to us, Lyn. I'm really at a loss for words. David will vouch for that. But that's exactly why I wanted you to come and chat with us, because that authenticity of how you see yourself in your story and your experience and how you share that, it's just so direct, and it's just it moves me. I don't know about you, David.
Very much so. Very much so. So you went on to describe what had happened to you in a series of books.
Yes, I did. I got in touch with the local social services, and I got my birth records. I got the lot. I didn't get the lot. I got as much. I think there is more. I can go and get more if I want my court file. I can get my court records. And there is more information in there, and I know there's more information in there, but you know what? I don't want it now because I've got to a point where I've written my books.
Yeah.
I researched my history, my start in life, my true start in life, where I came from, why I was adopted, which was the main reason that I wanted to know. Why did you do it? What made you do this to a child? What, you know, and no matter what it was, I needed to know that, because I had to process that. You know, yeah, I'd been given away. That was a fact. I was adopted. That was a fact. Yeah. I've got a piece of paper with a court stamp on saying you are now a new person. We have stripped you of your identity. You are, you know, that's what they do. Your name goes, everything goes. You're not allowed to contact any of your family, or you weren't at that point in time.
Right.
And I had to know. And when I found out, and I went, wow, that's great, it's big. And I've got no malice towards the woman who brought me into the world. In fact, I thank her. I absolutely thank her. She did me the biggest favour in the world, I think. Once I got my head around it, she's done me the biggest favour in the world.
Yeah.
On one level, nobody knows what's coming up. But I got my story. I got my originality. And I was a child that wasn't wanted. I was a child. I wasn't wanted. She couldn't keep me. She didn't want me. She had to give me up. She was prepared to abandon me to the Catholic Church in Liverpool and put me in an orphanage. And you know what? Fine. What would be, would be. She had issues going on in her life. And she did it mainly to raise another child who was born in wedlock, and to give that child the best life, and hopefully to give me the best life, because for her to keep me was actually dangerous for her. It was dangerous. And she thought she was doing the right thing. So I will say thank you for doing what you thought was right.
Yeah.
You know, even though as a baby, you don't know as a baby, you can't remember it. You never remember it. But it's always lurking, that feeling of not belonging. And I hope she had a very successful life after.
Yeah, me too. Because you do write from 3 different perspectives, and I believe there's another perspective on the way.
There's 2. Yeah, I wrote my birth. I wrote that one.
Yeah.
And that was up. That was
story. Yeah.
The birth mother story was from her finding out she was, well, a little bit before, to her finding out she was pregnant with me. Not all of that is fact. Some of it is from my own imagination, because I could only pick bits and pieces out of my birth records. And then I moved on to my adoptive mother story, and I picked it up where the first one left off. So I was given across to my adoptive parents, and that her story was quite sad as well, because she was in a really bad relationship, a marriage. She was gaslighted endlessly. She was battered. She was left short of money. He was playing the field with other women. We had to follow his rule. He was a policeman. We lived by the lesser of the law in more ways than one. It was very unpleasant. And she did the best she could for us, bless her. She did the very best she could. She also had a brain injury. She also had she suffered a brain injury where she had to totally rehabilitate as a teenager.
Goodness me.
And then she contacted encephalitis from mumps, because that's a byproduct of it.
Okay.
And she contacted that, and it left her with a degenerative brain illness. And we grew up with that. I used to come home from school, and if she was asleep and I woke her up, she used to say, "Get out of my house." And she didn't know who I was. And honestly, she didn't. And at first, it was terrifying. You imagine being an 8-year-old girl coming in from school and being thrown out, you don't know. It was absolutely terrifying. But I learned how to adjust to her and support her. And she used to say the most random of things to me. And I didn't realise how much of an effect they were having.
I was going to say, did that compound your feelings of not belonging? Because there's this mum, that And you didn't feel that you were belonging, and then, you know, bless her, because of the injury that she had, did that compound it then?
Absolutely, there was so much going on.
Yeah.
And we never had any, we had food, we never had enough. We had clothes, they weren't the best. In fact, they weren't good at all. You know, we were living in an area that was very affluent, that was middle class. He had a middle class profession. He had plenty of money. He kept her short. She could only work so many hours to supplement, because obviously she was poorly. She couldn't do it. She had no energy. She was constantly stressed. And as children, we got the blunt end of that.
Yeah.
I had a brother. Well, he was a boy who was adopted before me, and we were called brother and sister, but we weren't. We were two people in a house that were being brought up by these two people. And he used to say, "You're not my sister." And it used to hurt. But you know what? He was dead right.
Okay.
Because we were just two strangers who were put together and expected to somehow figure out how to be a family. And it was really peculiar. And after I'd written that, I managed to say, "It's okay, Mum. It's actually okay. You did the best you could, love." And she genuinely did.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm dead proud of her, and I loved her. And oh God, it was dead hard. It was hard for her. It was hard for us.
Yeah.
But as a mum myself and as a grown woman now, I can see that so clearly, that she genuinely did the best she could with what she had. And I'll always be so grateful for that, you know, because again, what I went through has turned me into who I am today. And I'll always be dead proud of that. So anyway, then I moved on to mine, moved on to my story. And again, that was because I had loads and loads of issues that just wouldn't go away. My head was full of crowded thoughts that wouldn't stop, and it was horrible. So I decided that I would sit down and write my story. And it was really good, actually. Yes, it was hard in parts. It was very hard in parts, but it was very, very good, because it made me realise where I'd been holding on to so much.
Yeah.
And I was actually letting go of what was mine. And I was beginning to see that none of it, up till the age of 18, none of it was actually my fault. It wasn't. It was mine in one way, and it was what I did to survive.
Yeah. We adapt.
It wasn't actually mine to carry.
No.
And once I started to let it go, it became, I won't say better, but it became easier. And some of the experiences that I lived through, I've been able to support others, and I actually do understand, and I've got empathy for those people. And I also understand that it doesn't matter what people tell you to do. You've got to be able to do it yourself to make the difference and make the change.
Yeah.
And that to me was, whoa, that was one of the biggest revelations, because all my life I had adhered to or followed.
Yeah.
Because you were frightened to break the rule, or you were, you know, it was almost like adoption was, it was also almost something shameful for her. She wasn't a complete person because she couldn't have her own children.
Oh, wow.
I genuinely got that, and I felt that. And we were made to feel that as children as well. The man I had the misfortune to call father, his mother openly said, "They're not blood, they're not mine. I don't want them. Get them away." Wow. And we were made to feel different, which we already were. We knew that, But when it's compounded by adults who you look to,
yeah,
and who you are encouraged to call family, what's all that about? And it took me a long time to realise that it's okay to let them go, you know.
Yeah, because, you know, the things that I know about you now, you are this incredibly loving grandma. Indeed, isn't it that AHMBT is reference to your very lovely granddaughters?
They're all there. My family are there.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest nod I could give to them, because I wrote my books for them. My children must have suffered quite badly, because my mental health had been rocky for so many years and I hadn't recognised that. And it was only when I crashed and burned and I actually said, I'm really ill, that I could start to speak with my sons and not look at them as children, but look at them as independent adults who I genuinely knew loved me, because we're family. And I knew that somewhere deep down, I knew I wasn't going to be told to shut up, to stop. And they supported me. And they gave me the greatest gift that they could ever give me, these 3 beautiful grandchildren who I adore and who I ensure and guide my sons and their mummies, and I guide them and hope that they grow up with enough about them to overcome issues, to never have trauma or masses of trauma that affects them, and to become well-rounded people who can speak their mind and speak their truth and say, I don't like it, I'm not doing it, or I will. Or they have got choices, and I bring them up with my sons so they have choices. And my sons, I talk with them a lot about things in my life, not too much, because sometimes they're not ready to hear or they don't want to.
Yeah.
But we talk about how to deal with issues. We talk about lots of things like that. So I suppose, in a way, we've all become each other's buffer. We've all become each other's bounce off. We've all become each other's safe space.
Yeah.
And it's marvellous. It's lovely to watch them flourish as adults. And for me to think, I'm so proud to be their mum and grandma. Because I am. You know, it doesn't have to be, does it? It can stop. The generational thing can stop. And I'm hoping that my grandchildren will be the last in my generational line of the family to carry ACEs, to have trauma that really affects you. And that is my biggest hope for them. That they are successful in their own right and they know themselves. What bigger gift?
You are the gift. You are a gift.
They're the gift to me.
You are one of the easiest interviews because you are your story. You show that so beautifully, Lyn.
Thank you.
You know, I'm known for being chatty. I don't need to. Everyone knows who's like, bloody hell.
I know.
Aneesh is shutting up. You are the gift. And I cannot thank you enough for how you have shared your experience of how you have experienced adoption. And everybody will have different stories and different experiences, but you clearly had a really tough experience and didn't have the recognition of just being you.
No.
Just being a person.
And I think a lot of adoptees feel that it's such a sense of loss. It's an abandonment.
Okay.
And no matter what age you are taken for adoption, I was 5 months old
Oh, wow.
when I was taken from my birth mother. Well, when she handed me over.
Yeah.
I was 5 months old, so I would have known that woman.
You would.
And
bonded.
Absolutely, regardless to whether she bonded with me or not, on whatever level we did bond, yeah.
Yeah.
And you imagine waking up in the morning. You imagine waking up one morning in a different cot, in a different room, with different smells, different faces looking at you, different voices, and being expected to just fit in.
Yeah.
I was told as a baby that all I ever did was cry. Wow.
Yeah.
I was grieving.
Yeah, you're confused. You didn't know.
The way a baby can communicate.
Oh.
And I was told I was always a difficult baby. I was told I was always very headstrong. You got that right.
I'm glad on that one.
You know, I was told that I was basically lucky to be here because there was many a time she was going to throw me down the stairs, you know, stop not crying because I wouldn't stop. And these were just off the cuff comments that a lady who had a brain injury said.
Yeah.
And you know, genuinely, she didn't really want to kill me, I don't think. But deep down, it affects how you think. You're treading on eggshells because you don't consciously think about it, but subconsciously, it goes in there. Part of my book, I've written part of my book, and in it I say, the whispering was the worst because when she whispered things in my ear, I couldn't get out my head. And if there was something going on and she needed to make, because she used to shout all the time. She's like a bloody fishwife. You know, she'd shout for England and took no notice because you could block it out, because you could sing a song in your head, or you could read a book, or you could write, or you could say okay, and it would, you know, you could just give yourself space.
Is that where your writing came from? Do you know what I mean? Was that the kind of early beginnings of it then? That it was probably, to shut out that whispering.
Yeah. And she, if you knew when she meant it, because she used to come right up to you and she used to point and she used to whisper, and it used to go in your head. Yeah, you had to listen.
Yeah.
You heard it, and of course, once you heard it, it was in there.
Yeah, you can't not hear it, can you?
You had to deal with it somehow. So what I used to do is I just used to squash it down and pretend she hadn't said it.
Yeah.
But she had, and it was in there.
Okay.
And it had to come out.
So with this, the writing, bringing this out, those whispers out. Lyn, you got a poem for us today. We've never had a poet reading their poetry. David's very excited.
Mm-hmm.
Are you?
I am.
Wow.
I read 3 of the poems that I was able to get online. I don't know whether you knew they were there or not, but they're so diverse, and 2 of them are so funny.
Which were they?
I was in hysterics the other day telling me.
It's got me stumped, absolutely.
Oh, cricket. I wrote that for a gentleman whose son got chosen through Durham County Cricket Club to go and play in Saudi Arabia over Christmas. Wow. And they were doing a raffle. And he put it on LinkedIn and he said, anybody, so I said, I'll write you a poem. And I framed it, because that's what I do. It's part of my living. I write poetry for any event.
Yeah.
And frame it and flog it, basically.
Yeah, I read that's how you started. With you wrote a poem for a gift, and then that kicked it all off. Yeah.
I wrote a poem for a gift, and the gift was for my mum. Yeah. Actually, it was for my mum.
Yeah. I'm still laughing at the 2 lines are stuck in my head. You talk about your whispers. I've got these 2 lines stuck in my head.
Go on then. Which ones are they?
There's
He can't do it.
What do they do with that poor maiden when she's been bowled over? Or overbowled, I should say.
Overbowled.
And so now I need to know what's in the box you never see.
Is it biscuits for your tea?
I was literally crying the other day reading that.
Yeah,
But then again, you go on to, or As I Walked, I think was the other one, which is deeply moving, which I could really relate to. Yeah.
Yeah, the picture of the young girl was taken by a very, very good friend of mine, who is also my go-to person for my book covers, called Trudy.
Very, very good indeed.
Called Trudy Smith.
Yeah.
And she did a collection of these, and I've got 3, very similar, but very unique and different as well. 3 pictures from her, and they so inspired me. And the words just seemed to run on the page, well, on the keyboard, and they were written within minutes, and yeah, very powerful.
Well, your books seem to be powerful because most often written about your books from quite well-known critics is they read them mostly in one sitting and couldn't put them down.
Yeah.
And the star ratings are through the roof.
Yeah, I'm so pleased. I'm so shocked, actually. And, I'm so grateful as well.
Yeah.
Because it's helping people.
Deservedly so. I mean, I will, to my shame, I haven't bought a book yet, but I'm going to start with the poetry, I think.
Oh, I'm quite sure you'll enjoy it.
I'm sure I will.
Anyway, would you like me to read my...
Yeah, well, I interrupted, but I wanted to say those things. And,
thank you so much, David. That's really kind.
You're most welcome.
I greatly appreciate that. It's lovely.
You're most welcome.
Bless you. Right, okay, so this one is called When I Look. What did I see when I looked at me? A shadow of humanity, woman in pain, fight to regain modicum of sanity was what I saw. A woman unsure. I show a sorrow and borrow a persona, wrong owner, bereft and left behind. To fight alone, undignified the loss of pride, running to hide a pain, sustained for years, no tears, just fears. Those sears, scarred heart, then torn apart, just like the start, I have to say, that baby girl sent away. Now what do I see when I look at me? A woman changed, life rearranged. Once more the drive has come alive to live and give, to care and share. The past revealed, now nearly healed, the heart that once was torn apart, I own, have grown, now not alone. A woman of pride I will not hide, but step outside and seeing through a different face and filling that once damaged space with understanding, calmness, grace. Finding me, breaking free without the chain that did restrain. The anger, pain, a demon slain. My sword a pen, paper my buffer. Tumultuous storm, a journey to suffer, but landing in a better place, called resilience, truly was my saving grace. Thank you. Wow.
Beautiful.
Thank you. And that's me, and I'm on a journey now. I'm on a major journey, and I still am, and I don't call it a journey anymore, I call them adventures.
Adventures.
Yeah, because I have adventures all the time now. And I've got a new adventure starting very soon. I've just managed to secure myself a full-time position looking after people with disabilities. Okay. And I'm going in to support them with creative things.
Oh, fantastic.
How good's that?
How fantastic.
I am so grateful for the opportunity. And it's just me.
But you, just me, this is you. I just know that this would be so inspirational for so many people. I love the fact that you turned the whispers into all that you brought today. I take my hat off to you. Lyn, I won't say your surname again because I might get it wrong.
Oh, go on, give it a go.
Osbaldeston.
Yes, you got it. There you go. You got it. Got
The
it. No
Cumbrian
problem.
wordsmith, AHMBT, the tiny baby.
Yeah.
You're absolutely, and I'm not going to say the word, beep, fantastic. Thank you for coming today.
I'll take that.
You got it in
but I'll take that.
spades.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. David, talk us out because I literally don't know how I've kept my tears back. You too.
Well, I came close, as I do sometimes. But I want to say thank you so much. I really enjoyed that, and your story is incredible. I am going to pick up on the books. I believe there's another one in the pipeline.
Yeah. It's taken a little bit longer than I thought, because I don't know if I'm ready.
Okay.
It's more of me moving on with my life now to become an adult.
That seems to follow on, and I
And
can understand why it would take more time to write.
I think it's on a need to know basis in parts.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, there's a teaser. There's a teaser, a cliffhanger to leave it on. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for asking me. And it's been an absolute joy. And I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to be able to share it because, like I said, if it helps one more person, job's done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.
You too.